most elemental law of human nature is that we deny that we have it. It's always the other people. I'm not a narcissist. I'm not aggressive. Oh, I don't have a dark side. I'm not irrational. No, none of those things, right? Actions are a language that you're not paying attention to. There probably are some people like that, yes, but a lot of people in prison aren't. They've had terrible circumstances, but people who have the worst circumstances in them, they're either crushed by it or they use it to develop themselves. I get emails at least once a week from people in prison. We're getting more and more of them these days, saying how much the book has helped them. I'm now friends with a lot of rappers. I'm not trying to name drop, but 50, Cheesy, etc. And then I met recently the hottest rapper in London when I was just over in London, Potter Paper. I can't get it right. Anyway, and all of them had been in prison, and Rick Ross, etc., had done some time in prison. And I'm deeply empathetic to that kind of predicament. People try to use the fact that it's banned in prison or the prisoners are reading it as an indictment against me, as if I'm evil, as if people who are in prison are inherently evil. And we've forgotten some core aspects of religion, of our Judeo-Christian background for many of us, or for all religions, which is forgiveness, which is the idea of redemption. Do we believe that people are inherently irredeemably evil? There probably are some people like that, yes, but a lot of people in prison aren't. They've had terrible circumstances. The quote in the Bible, there for the grace of God go you and I. If you had been raised where I saw 50 being raised in Southside Queens, in the pressurized circumstances, raised by a grandmother who's trying to raised like 11 grandchildren and her own children, you're on the streets of Queens, and all the drugs going on. You tell me you wouldn't possibly end up in prison. So get rid of your moralizing and your air of superiority. Oh, book's in prison, therefore it's an evil book, therefore Robert's evil. These are human beings, flesh and blood. You could have ended up like them. I often imagine, what if I had ended up in prison? I often think about that, And the man I met in London, Potter Paper, God, I wish I could. He was the most amazing person. He's fantastic. He's 31 years old. He was basically raised by the state, a foster kid. He spent half his life in the prison system up until that point. And the guy used the prison library to educate himself, which is a common theme in prisons. He is smarter, he's more together than most people who are out of prison, right? And because the harshness of your circumstances often transforms you. People who have it easy in life never have to work on themselves, right? But people who have the worst circumstances in them, they're either crushed by it or they use it to develop themselves. People like 50, people like Malcolm X, others who've gone through the prison system. Even Gandhi used the prison system to kind of elevate himself. So I embrace the fact that disaffected, the marginalized people in my culture are attracted to the book, because I've always been attracted to the margins anyway, but I wear it as a badge of honor, I'm afraid. So the most elemental law of human nature is that we deny that we have it, right? It's always the other people. I'm not a narcissist. I'm not aggressive. Oh, I don't have a dark side. No, I'm not irrational. No, none of those things, right? So we want to deny it, but it's so insanely irrational. We all come from the same origins. We can trace it back. They've done it genetically to like one woman, the source of Homo sapiens, like hundreds of thousands of years ago. We're all cut from the same cloth. No matter our culture, no matter our gender, no matter our period in history, we all have the same genetic components. We all went through the same evolutionary process, the same brains wired in the same way. So if some people are deep, what I call deep narcissists, no doubt, and they're toxic and they're difficult. But if some people have that, how is it that other people don't have any of it? That's not possible. There must be something within all of us that would make us all prone to becoming deep narcissists. But some people, it makes them fall into that deepness. Others, we're able to save ourselves, right? But if aggression is something that's built into human nature, and I try and go through the whole history of it, right? So you're wanting to exclude yourself. So, I mean, people have posted comments on YouTube about my ranting about narcissism. They go, well, Robert, you're a snake oil salesman. That's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not a narcissist. 0.05% of people are known to be narcissists. I can bet you that the person saying that is a narcissist, right? Because the fact that you want to deny that you have this quality, a sure sign that you have it, that you're in denial, that you're trying to shine a great light on yourself. Look, I'm superior. I'm the one person in the world on this planet that doesn't have it. Man, you're a narcissist, right? That is a sure sign of it. So stop denying it. Laws of Human Nature should be a painful book to read. It was a painful book to write because it throws a mirror on yourself. It makes you come to terms with some of your own nooks and crannies that you don't want to look into, right? You don't want to come to terms with the fact that you feel envy. But envy is the most common human emotion of them all. There's a deep history of it. I go into it in the book. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors, chimpanzees are prone to feeling envy. You feel it 50 times during the day, particularly on social media. You're just denying it. If you deny all of these qualities, how can you ever change yourself? You think that you're a Gandhi, but how can you be a Gandhi if you won't look at yourself and change yourself, right? The only way you can become good or kind of overcome some of these qualities is by looking at it, seeing the reality, and then confronting it and then trying to change it. So if I come to terms, which I did as writing the book, that yes, Robert, you are a narcissist. You have definite narcissistic tendencies, more than you thought. All right, now I'm aware of it, and now I can begin to change it, come to terms with it. I have to admit, being honest here, I've always been interested in deceit. I probably was somebody who was pretty good at it in my 20s, you know. I went through a period like that. I wasn't like a liar or something, but I was kind of an actor. I'm not going to go deep into this story, but I lived in Paris when I was 21. I worked in a hotel there as a receptionist. And in order to get the job, I had to pretend that I was Irish. And I'm actually a middle-class Jew from Los Angeles. Never been in a church in my life. You know, I don't know what a mass is from anything. I had to pretend I was Irish. I got another job in another company, still being Irish. But so it taught me a lot about the art of deception. And part of the job, part of being able to pull it off was I studied. I was terrified of so I'm starting to work in the hotel thinking that I'm speaking French because I speak French, that no one will ever know that I'm not really Irish. But then I realized English people stay in the hotel, Irish people stay in the hotel, and they hear this accent, they know this guy's a liar. I'm going to be revealed and it's going to be so embarrassing and shameful. So luckily across the street was an Irish pub. You know, one of those fortunate things in life. I would go there every day. I would study the people in there because there were a lot of Irish immigrants in Paris. I would study their mannerisms. I'm very good at mimicking, hearing the tone of their voice. I looked at how they dressed, their mannerisms. I studied it, and I got better and better at my accent. At first I had to tell people, well, I kind of spent time in the States, you know. But then I got so good I could fool Irish people. I learned how to dress. I learned how to go to church. I learned how to all the things, you know, that made me seem Irish. It's a bit embarrassing because it's something you can do when you're 21. I would never do that now. I would never feel comfortable doing that now. I'm revealing it to you here. But it taught me how easy it is to fool people if you have an air of sincerity and conviction, right? And I tell people, when you look at those around you, particularly politicians or people in the news or in the spotlight, and they're so full of conviction, and they're so full of sincerity, etc., they're often covering up something else, right? They're trying to convince themselves of a truth that they know is not true, right? And so conviction is often a sign of somebody who's in a form of self-deception to lead to deception. So the kind of my early history, my early training in becoming a different person, in being an actor, kind of taught me a lot about human nature and deception. I'm not saying I'm a master at it, but I'm fascinated by con artists and the whole manipulation of appearances and creating illusions. And I've studied it very deeply. So I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I understand it quite well. I've always been very sensitive to that stuff. And so I feel like you can detect from signs in a person's face whether they're sincere or not, or what's really going on behind the mask that they're wearing. And I wrote about that in the Laws of Human Nature. We have that ability because so much of human communication is nonverbal. It's a skill that was developed over hundreds of thousands of years by our ancestors before language is invented, reading the thoughts of other people so we could get along, before we could express things in words. We are masters at picking up those signals. You're just not paying attention, you're not learning it. But it's hard for the face to lie, right? It's even harder for the voice to lie. The voice is the last thing that you can use to lie. I know I had my Irish accent, but if somebody really saw through it, they would see kind of the that was going on. And so it's hard to train the face when you don't really feel joy. When you say you got a promotion, and I'm kind of secretly going, Tyler's doing better than me in life. Yeah, that's great, Tyler. Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations. The kind of tightness there is just revealing that he's doing better than I am, kind of thing, right? Whereas, wow, Tyler, that's fantastic. I'm really happy for you. There's a different look in the face. I just didn't do a good job right there, but there's a different look in the face, right? It's spontaneous. The face lights up. You can detect that from a million miles away, the difference. You're just not paying attention, right? The tone of voice when you're nervous and cramped and the throat kind of closes up is a sign of discomfort, of anxiety, of fear, of even panic. So somebody could be trying to say something full of bluster and confidence, but if their voice is kind of tightening up, they're feeling the opposite. The voice is very, very hard to lie. The posture, when somebody is talking to you, but their feet are pointing in a different direction, they're wanting to get away from you, right? You know, how much the eyes engage, whether they're relaxed or slouching. The sense of power and leadership is all in the body. This is insane language. And great books have been written, far greater than my own book. I just wrote a chapter on it, about this language of nonverbal behavior, right? Posture, voice, facial expression, etc., and actions. So actions are a language that you're not paying attention to. When someone is continually late for an appointment or continually late in delivering work that they're supposed to deliver, that's a sign of passive aggression. That's a sign of some kind of character flaw. And if they do it once, they'll probably do it a second time. If they do it a second time, something's going on, right? If their desk is all messy, etc., these are signs of something going on internally. Pay attention to all of these details and it will really help you in life. August 17, 2018. People are just hearing a story of a shirt and they go, God, man, how boring could that be? But basically, I was here in LA. I was with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. We just had lunch and I was getting into the car to drive home. I'm pulling into traffic and she's seeing all sorts of weird things, like my face is falling, my voice is getting really weird, and I'm kind of looking really strange. She starts freaking out. She says, pull over. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I start pulling into traffic. I'm driving. She forces me over to the side of the road. And then she told me later that I tried to get out of the car, like I was gonna do something. And then I went into a coma and I don't remember anything else. She called 911 and fortunately we were close. An ambulance came by within 5-10 minutes and I had a blood clot in my neck. So blood wasn't flowing to my brain for a long enough period of time to create damage, right? So that's a stroke. And first of all, I'm frequently alone in life. I swim. Before my stroke, I would swim every 2 days or so, alone in the pool. I hiked a lot. I rode my bike a lot. I'm alone a lot. The fact that I was with her was maybe a 5% chance, right? That 5% chance meant I'm still alive, right? The fact that she figured out really quickly something is wrong and called them saved me from brain damage that would be permanent. I wouldn't be able to talk to you right now. A lot of stroke victims have permanent brain damage. I wouldn't be able to write another book. I'm very, very lucky. So she very lovingly sewed it back together. It looks kind of Frankenstein-like. It also looks maybe like high fashion, like Karl Lagerfeld himself designed it or something, but it's not. So in order to get to me quickly, they took this shirt and they cut scissors through it and they cut it into pieces and they ripped the shirt off. And then they stuck a thing in my neck to open up the blood clot and get some blood flowing to my brain, which saved me. And a year and a half afterwards, I suddenly remembered this shirt. I had just gotten it for my birthday a couple months before, and I remember, I love that shirt. I really liked it. It was like so me. And I finally asked her, whatever happened to that shirt? And she kind of got this really strange look on her face. And she told me the story of the scissors and everything. And then I said, oh, well, let me see it. And she got this awful hospital bag and pulled it out, and I could see it was in pieces. And I felt so awful. I said, I love that shirt. Could you like sew it back together for me? So you don't want to see that shirt again. Yes, I do. It's a constant reminder of what happened. You know, it's like what they call a memento mori. It's a memory of death, my own fatality, my own mortality. I want that shirt.